Okay, good evening, ladies and gentlemen. I'm going to call the meeting of the Richmond City Council for Monday, September 22nd, 2025 to order. I have a motion on the minutes. Any discussion? All those in favor, opposed, carried. Madam Clerk, agenda additions or deletions?
Thank you, Your Worship. There is an agenda addition. This is for item 10. This is the proposed truck parking strategy report. There is an on-table memorandum for council, which is proposing to increase the parking spaces for the pilot program to 63. And this is to be incorporated into the report.
And that would be for spaces, the extra 8 spaces would be on Vulcan Way. Yes?
That is correct, yes.
All right, may I have a motion on the agenda with that change? Any discussion? All those in favor, opposed, carried. May I have a motion to resolve in a committee of the whole to hear delegations items on the agenda? All those in favor, opposed, carried. Are there any parties here tonight who wish to delegate on an item on the agenda? Anyone?
Move revise and report.
Moved and seconded. All those in favor, opposed, carried. Brings us to the consent agenda, which includes the receipt of committee minutes, the Richmond Hospital update, the award of a contract for the documented records management system modernization, the local government climate action program year 4 survey report and 2024 corporate emissions inventory, the proposed commercial truck parking strategies. The land use application on River Road has been taken off the consent agenda, and we'll get to that in due course. Heritage application permit for 3580 Moncton Street. That's the Hepworth Block, Unit 100. River Road traffic assessment update for the Hamilton neighborhood engagement and the Springfield Drive traffic calming. The reusable containers review, the Terra Nova Rural Park Historic Assets Phase 2 draft program plan, and finally the Wards Regulation Bylaw 10-182 amendments. May I have a motion to adopt those by general consent? Moved and seconded. So we'll go to our speakers on the consent agenda. Councillor Wolf.
Thank you, Your Worship. I'll be in support of everything that remains on the consent agenda. I'll speak to four of the items. Item number 7, the Richmond Hospital update. This past weekend was very busy in Minru Park with the culture days and participation and all the other games and events happening throughout the park. And so this is about a construction site office that will impact part of that space, kind of behind the Gateway Theatre. I stood there as my daughter was in a program in the Gateway, and I was standing by those trees and looking at the potential site where it will be impacted, but all I think worthwhile to get a near $2 billion project to be built and finish around 2031, so that's good. Moving on to item number 13, that's the River Road traffic assessment update for Hamilton neighborhood engagement. At Public Works Transportation Committee, did point out that there were many members of Hamilton who did engage in the neighborhood opportunity through the survey and some in person. It did say in the report, which was just approved in our minutes, that there was the majority of Hamilton residents that did not approve any traffic calming. I think there's a slight technicality there, I'll point out again. It's 143 people who actually did want either traffic calming infrastructure or enhanced enforcement to have traffic calming as the outcome versus 88 who didn't want anything. So I think in fact the majority do want something. However, the majority of River Road resident respondents did not. And it would far impact them because that's their only road in many cases, one way or the other. So just wanted to point that out again. Item number 15 I'll go to, that's the reusable containers review. We approved at committee going with option 3, which is having like a third-party organization kind of help us with a pilot startup where at the Cherry Blossom Festival and the Farm Fest next year, that this contract organizer will provide shareware, plates, cups, utensils that they will collect after they're used, wash them, and do that service elsewhere. So I think option 3 is the best of the 3 options that was presented to us, but I was definitely keen on seeing us be more ambitious with this. There are many jurisdictions across the country and elsewhere that have gone much stronger in both sides. So helping the consumer make the right choice and helping the service provider or the food service provide with less single-use materials. I think what a step up that we have here in Richmond is the Green Ambassadors. So for anyone who went to Playland or P&E, there was a lot of food trucks, a lot of single-use cups just going into the waste stream there. Where at our events, we already have committed volunteers who are stationed at every place where there are bins to put things. So albeit staff did point out that like to fully service the Salmon Fest, we'd be looking at like $100,000 investment, and we'd be losing about 20% of the material because people would either pocket it to take it home as a souvenir, or it might end up in the not in any bin. But I actually think we would do a lot better, and we need to start before we can really get that behavior and habit formed for the individuals, the consumer side of things. So there wasn't interest around the committee to kind of push for more, but staff have expressed that they will be furthering the educational side and maybe looking for opportunities at some of the larger events where they can have a certain area sectioned off where there could be shareware. And the last comment on that one, I think long-term thinking in this, we would have this done in-house, and we would have our own products created for reuse at our events, and we would take the task on to have them cleaned and reused at future events, as opposed to contracting this out, because I think it is an essential part of city service if we are in fact going to continue to have events going forward. Lastly, item number 16, that's the Terra Nova Rural Park Historic Assessment Assets Phase 2 Draft Program Plan. And in that regard, I just wanted to direct public's attention if they wanted to check it out. Wrong one here. The minutes of the Parks, Recreation, Cultural Services Committee now includes 2 presentations that might be worthwhile checking out. We were fortunate to have Kevin Takahide Lee, a local performer, come to speak about his Japanese-Canadian heritage connection to the Terra Nova buildings. And then we also had David Kenji Heike fly in from out of town to talk about his connections to the Parson House. So very fascinating, and we referred that part into this item. So that's what you see as item 3 of 16, which is to kind of have staff further review the program plan now that we've received this additional information, and that we ensure we consult with descendants of past owners or residents of these heritage assets. So with that said, that's all I have for my comments now. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Heed.
Thank you, Mayor. I'm just going to quickly comment on 2 items here, and one is item number 10, the proposed commercial truck parking strategies. And I think it's important for us to realize we've got a significant problem with commercial vehicles parked on fertile ALR land here in Richmond, and I think we've got to do whatever we can from an enforcement point of view to get them off those lands so the lands can be used as intended. But at the same time, we have to have somewhere where these vehicles can go and park. And the focus is people that are running their businesses out of Richmond and located in Richmond. So I'm pleased that we're moving forward at least on one snippet of it. But I think, well, I know from a point of view on having appropriate truck parking, we are going to have to look at other options here in Richmond, and whether we depend on the market to determine how many spaces we need, and the price of that, or we as a city determine that we're going to have to take this on. But at the end of the day, we've got to make sure we do what's right. The other one, and I commented at length at committee, is number 13, the River Road Traffic Assessment Update and Hamilton Neighborhood Engagement. And I think what we've got here is certainly some of the feedback, as Councillor Wolf pointed out. I don't think we have the total that was required to come up with a workable solution. We do have issues with traffic, not only in the Hamilton area, but elsewhere in Richmond. And I think from a safety point of view, we've got to determine how we're going to look at this. I think this is just one piece of what is going on. I know we've looked at other areas. There's a notation here on Springfield Drive with the speed bumps. We've gone into the Steveston area. We've gone into the River Road on the south side and done some things. So I'm not overly pleased with what we came up with for Hamilton, but at least we have somewhere to start. Thank you, Mayor.
Councillor McNulty.
Thank you very much, Your Worship. I'll be very quick, but I would like to comment on 3 or 4 items here. First of all, I'll be supporting the hospital update, obviously. It was very gratifying to hear the construction company coming forward asking for the office site. But more importantly, give us the progress and moving along of the towards building the hospital. And I just want to say a huge thank you to all the volunteers and the hospital staff and everybody. The sooner we get the hospital, the better off we are. And that was very heartwarming at that time. Just a quick comment on the heritage application of the Hepworth block and the Hepworth building. Remember, it was built in 1913. We need to keep Steveston heritage and historical, because that's all there is in Steveston. So we've got to keep that going, and in the light that we're doing it. So I'll be supporting that. Just making a comment, as Councillor Heed said, on the River Road traffic assessment. The Hamilton people spoke. I think it's important, but also the River Road people continually speak to us. And their biggest thing is the traffic calming, but also the enforcement. We've got to request enforcement now and again, just like River Road, for example, between Gilbert and Number 1 Road. It's an area that the RCMP enforce. So I think that's something we want, and we thank the Hamilton people for their comments on it. And the people at Springfield Drive, their traffic calming will be coming, and looking forward to that. I just want to follow up on what Councillor Wolf was saying on the reusable containers. Many of the large marathons in the world contract out the water stations and the cups, and they're reusable. All of them, whether it be the Berlin Marathon, the London Marathon, the Tokyo Marathon. And the idea of reusable containers and what have you is not a new thing, but it's something for us. And I'm glad to see we're working in our events, because I think it's really a simple activity that we can do, and an ambitious one, so that we can go to all our other events and we put it in our budget. And I think those other activities within the community, we should ask them to put it in their budgets as well. I think if we can continue to do that, I think that's something that we look forward to down the road, because we can't continue to fill landfills and move stuff overseas, et cetera, and up to the interior. My last comment is a Terra Nova Real World Park draft. I support it wholeheartedly. It was very interesting to, not many people know the influence of the Japanese, not only in Terra Nova, Steveston, Sea Island, etc. And 2 of former heritage residents came forward. We got to hear from them how important it was to them and what was happening there. People forget that there was a very large cannery. The Terra Nova cannery just wasn't a Terra Nova cannery. It produced thousands and thousands of cans annually for for the Packers and others. And just across the water in Swishwash Island, etc., and on Dinsmore Island underneath the Dinsmore Bridge, there were 10 other canneries. And people don't realize that. So one thing I'd like to see on your worship is following on that, but an increase in an idea of putting signage and trails along the way so that people can understand the interpretation of what's there. So with that, your worship, I support everything on the agenda. Thank you.
Okay, Councillor Galanders.
Yes, thank you, Your Worship, and I will be supporting everything remaining on the consent agenda, and just want to acknowledge really good comments from everybody at Council about the items on here tonight, and I just also want to talk to a couple of them. They've already been spoken about, but just about the reusable containers. Like in Richmond, we really were ahead of the curve when it came to banning plastic bags, and then we were ahead of the curve when we banned styrofoam containers and wanted, the containers from the restaurants to be what could be easily recycled, like in the blue box. And then Councillor Wolf brought forward the referral, I think, to look at reusable containers and waste at our big events. And our staff came back with this pilot, and I didn't know that we had. I was picturing that we were going to have to go out and buy dishes and a dishwasher and have a big setup and hire a lot of staff to do it. And just to hear that there's companies that are already doing this, and maybe it will progress where more places own their own containers as well. Like Councillor Wolf said, that might be the next step. But for now, that there's places that we can contract out to that bring the containers, and they give them to the food trucks. And then the food trucks serve it in there. And like Councillor Wolf mentioned, we have these green ambassadors that tell everybody where to put their stuff. So there won't be a big garbage can that's going to end up with these things. There's a specific place where people go when they're done eating, and they'll drop off their container. And I really believe in Richmond. I think that our people are very progressive in this area and conscientious, and I think that our recovery rate is going to be better than the national average on these things. I think the cups would be a little trickier, but when it comes to a dinner container, I think we're going to do really well, and I'm excited to see where we can go with this. And I almost think that it's when instead of the food trucks having the containers, that there would be a station when you walk into the court where the food is, that you go pick up your container first and then go to your food truck, because that might even just sort of make it even more reinforced that people have to return them. But we'll see what comes out of the pilot. I think it's going to be a success. I'm really happy that we've done that, and that we're moving forward with it. It's a real step ahead of it. We were talking at committee about reusable cups that you take home as a memento, and that's been around for decades. This is way ahead of that. That's not what we're talking about here. Like I have those P&E reusable splash zone cups or whatever, and I remember to bring them back to the P&E every year to use them. But at the end of the day, it's got to go into the recycling eventually, because I don't want these ugly things all over my house. So this is better, and I'm really looking forward to it. And just also I want to comment on the Terra Nova Rural Park historical assets as well. I think we were just all really moved by the delegations that came to share with us the extensive Japanese history of their families at the two of the houses. And I was really amazed at how many councillors didn't know the extent of that history, because I'm always so impressed with how much our councillors do know about our history, and I'm always learning so much more from them. And so that it was new to all of us, the extent of it, and to get to see those photos. And I'm just really happy that Councillor Wolf chaired the meeting, asked that these presentations be put in the minutes. So I encourage anybody to look at the Parks and Recs and Cultural Services Committee minutes from last week and look at the photos of these flourishing fishermen families, Japanese families that lived in these houses before the internment of the First World War. And it was just really moving that they came all this way to give these amazing presentations, and that we're going to be looking at ways that we can incorporate that history better. So thanks for that, and that's all for me.
Councillor Hobbs.
Thanks, and through the chair, I'll just comment on three things, and they've all been commented on already, but they are important. And we did have really good discussions about each and every one of them at various committees. And the first one I'll talk to is the proposed parking pilot for trucks. In the report, it stated that there's about 6,500 trucks of different types registered in Richmond. And so there is a need. It's a metro issue. It's not just a Richmond issue, and probably a bigger issue in some municipalities south of the Fraser River. But we're doing a pilot program, and that will take place in areas of Fraserwood, Ironwood, Mitchell Island, and we've added Vulcan Way to that as well. So that'll be a one-year pilot. We'll do an evaluation of that, and as has been mentioned already by different councillors, then we'll see where we go from there. The next item is number 12, the heritage alteration permit for 3580 Moncton Road, which is the Hepworth block. That is just to do with the exterior of the building. The colors that have been chosen are historical colors. The Richmond Heritage Commission approves of it. I've spoken to people from the Richmond Historical Society as well, and they're in support of it. So that will go a long way towards improving the visual aspects of the building, and I think it's going to look really good. The last thing I want to comment on also has been talked about at length, but it's a Terra Nova Park and the historic assets plan that we have for that. There's a number of things that have been there. We did have 2 outstanding presentations at committee, and they were really informative and really well done. But there are other things that happened there as well. So, for instance, when I was a kid, the Richmond Pony Club was there, and the Terra Nova Cannery was still there, actually. And it's what we grabbed onto before we got swept out into the Georgia Strait one day. But the importance of maintaining our assets and our knowledge of what's happened historically is really good. And the great thing about Terra Nova, it's all nestled in a very natural setting. So it's going to be beautiful. It's an excellent plan. It's a really good roadmap, and there'll be more to come on that, and we'll continue with that. And with those comments, Your Worship, I'll be supporting everything on the consent agenda. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Day.
Thank you very much, Mayor Brody. Great agenda. There's so much on here
Could you
tonight.
bring in your mic, please?
Oh, oops, sorry. There we go. Okay, we're on target now. Okay, a few things I wanted to comment on. The Richmond Hospital update is a really great opportunity for Richmond to actually help the developer, the builder who's building the brand new hospital. By providing this land in behind the hospital for their offices for the construction, we can move the project along. So anything that I can do, that we can do to promote a faster construction, I support. Number 10 on the agenda is the proposed commercial parking. We have tweaked our report a little bit. There are now going to be 63 parking spots. And out in Surrey, they charge over $400 for commercial parking. We're going to only charge under $200. So it'll be even opportunity for parks to park legally in primarily public spaces. But we're not finished. We do need better truck parking in Richmond, and that's going to come as time goes by. Number 12 is the heritage alteration, and you're probably wondering, why are we getting so picky about the Hepworth building? Well, as Councillor McNulty pointed out, it is built in 1915, and it must be preserved. So even though they're just making a sign and changing the colors, we have to be involved so we don't see it, look like a McDonald's or something down the road, which would be tragic. Okay, number 13 is the River Road. We have discussed the River Road in the north end of Richmond, I think 4 or 5 times. And over and over and over again, we hear from the people who live on River Road, please don't put a whole bunch of speed bumps down. Have better reinforcement by the police. But we are going to protect the power poles because they've been hit many, many times. And that's dangerous for the driver. It's also very annoying for the residents because they lose their power. On the number 14 is the Springfield Drive traffic calming. We had these temporary speed bumps that we put in. They were kind of rubber, and we put them in to see if they slowed people down. They did, but they vibrated and made a lot of noise. And so the people who lived nearby said, do we have to have these speed bumps? So staff wisely recommended that we remove those and put in permanent speed bumps, but they'll have a longer runoff. So it won't be as noisy, and it certainly won't cause near the vibration that the temporary ones do. The Terra Nova Park, it was an amazing presentation. That I don't sit on Parks and Rec, but I attended anyhow. And the speaker brought a whole bunch of information, and I did not know, I lived in Richmond my whole life, that there were 10 canneries in and around Sea Island back in the day. And this picture here shows hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of fishing boats. I thought it was just in Steveston. So we are asking staff, item number 3, that we added to review the draft program, and I'd like to see more signs with information about the incredible history of that area. And that's it for me. Thank you very much.
Okay, with that, we'll call the question on the consent agenda. All those in favor? Any opposed? That is carried. So the one item that's been taken off the consent agenda is number 11, which is a rezoning on River Road. We'll go to the chair of the planning committee to introduce it, Councillor McNulty.
Thank you, Worship. The staff recommendation on this was that the Richmond zoning bylaw 8500 and the amendment 10710 for the rezoning of 160 and 960 River Road and the PID of 0570 478 111 from agriculture AG1 zone to the industrial storage IS1 zone be permitted for commercial vehicle parking and storage, and it be introduced and given first reading, and I would so move. Been second, okay. Yeah, Your Worship, this is a rezoning, and we're getting a lot of rezonings along River Road right up to the 17,000 block. And this is just one where at one time that this was already in 2008, it was in the to be in the long-term action plan, and it was designated then as commercial vehicle, truck parking, outdoor storage, etc. And then it got a AG1 designation. But on this one, the idea is to take two lots, combine them, and obtain an ESA-DP to permit a commercial vehicle parking and storage on the property. And with that, Your Worship, the applicant has done all the necessary things that are required to have this rezone. We have, each one of them will probably need a rezoning. 6 adjacent properties to this have already been previously approved through 5 rezoning applications to allow for interim industrial and others will be coming along. And this was an area we need to be looking at in the OCP to take it from AG1 and to put in ISI along that line. This is what is proposed is drastically needed in Richmond. We had 2 other resolutions tonight with trucks and truck parking and dealing with the trucking industry. And this augments the trucking industry as well. And I believe that this should go forward. If it does, it is the only one of a truck wash and whatever of its kind, unless I believe it's Langley or Surrey, an hour and a half's drive for trucks to get the same kind of service. And given the volume of the trucking industry in Richmond, this is well needed within our community. So I will also be supporting it, Your Worship.
Councillor Wolf.
Thank you, Your Worship. I'll be speaking opposed to this. I did attend planning committee where this was discussed, and I just have a few things to ask staff about and also correct some statements. So first off, yeah, there is no direct adjacent truck parking. You can look at, there's a few maps in our package, but the one on page 97 shows this parcel highlighted, or 2 parcels, I guess, adjacent, abutting each other, and there is no adjacent directly to this, where there's trucks going in and out. I'll also highlight in the staff the report there highlighting that there's no fish in the riparian area in front, and it has some aquatic amphibian value. Part of it is due to the truck washing that already goes on in this area. When I regularly commute River Road, there's times where that water is so cloudy, filled with runoff from who knows what's being washed off out of some of the trucks, and goes into that waterway and killing who knows what amount of wildlife, because we don't have baseline data to know what we've lost and what we continue to lose. I want to ask staff a couple of questions. First off, in the report, it mentions that there was an environmental impact assessment done. It wasn't attached to the package. Is it somewhere available?
Through your worship to Councillor Wolf, a environmental impact assessment was submitted, or an environmental biophysical inventory was submitted as part of the application. It is a technical document, but the information contained in there helped inform the findings of this report and will help inform the development permit report.
Okay, thanks. Maybe you can answer as well. The next question I have, through your worship to staff, is the parcel right next to it. So not the property, but it's kind of like a right-of-way that would connect to a future road around the back and to the side. Who owns that property directly to the east of this?
Through your worship to Councillor Wolf, just to clarify, to the east of the subject property, that is an unopened city road allowance.
Okay. So what current allowances are there for that? What can this current property owner do with that? Are they able to use it, park on it, access their property with using it?
Through your worship to Councillor Wolf, the current property owner does use that portion of the unopened road allowance in order to access their property. As part of this application, that access would be closed off to them for their own personal use.
Okay, thanks. Just some further comments then. Yeah, we heard earlier from a councillor that we should be getting trucks off fertile land. And here's an opportunity where we have zoned AG1 land and we're going to put 14 parking stalls on it for trucks and wash them and whatever other things. We also just approved in the consent agenda item number 10, which includes 63 truck parking stalls. We had just added 8 more. Found out tonight we could fit in 8 more, and those are about 5-minute drive away from this site on River Road. So now looking at what could be done with that parcel. Well, I think with the official community plan stage that we're at, we could actually be looking at planning an infrastructure improvement to allow better agricultural land in this area. As we do the dike upgrades, there's going to be more potential for utilities to perhaps water some of the parcels. We just have to look in the last 5 years how many other parcels further down River Road have submitted agricultural enhancement projects where they were going to raise the land and do garlic, raise the land and do better blueberries than the blueberries that are there now. But what has happened with these parcels? Either nothing or they've dumped fill. So that we haven't actually seen the success to have these agricultural proposals follow through. Perhaps it's let's just get the fill on, collect the money for the fill, and then eventually flip it from AG to industrial storage or industrial some other form. We approved the existing site for our works yard project. There was some other sites that did not get approved. Those are much larger than all these properties combined on our map here. So there's a lot more potential for industrial land to be included that is not currently used for that. My last comment relates to trees being removed. I struggle to accept this because I have to see it to believe it, because I haven't seen too many examples where they remove 34 trees and they are required to put in 70 and that 64 plus 6, because there's also 2 city trees that are going to be replaced on a 3-to-1 ratio. And so they're going to fit in 70 apparently. Hard to see that when it's no longer agricultural. It's no longer soft soil. It's now going to be hard packed ground. And also the report mentions that only 2 city trees are going to be removed. But if you look at the trees on the map of the removal page, whatever it is, it actually shows 5 city trees, C1 through 5, that are being removed. And it even says to be removed. So there's a little bit of inaccuracy there. So with all those reasons, and probably many more, I'm opposed to this. Thanks.
Councillor Heed.
Yes, thank you, Mayor. I just have a couple of questions for our planning people. Can you give us a little bit of an advent on how this was determined to be industrial? I believe the entire 16,000 block River Road.
Through your worship to Councillor Heed, I can do my best. It was before my time with the city, but my understanding is these lands were ultimately removed from the agricultural land reserve in the early 2000s. They were subsequently designated in the city's OCP for industrial uses. The interim and long-term strategy for the 1600 block was introduced in the mid-2010s, or around 2008, sorry, in order to provide for interim allowance for commercial storage until such time as sufficient infrastructure was available to allow for more intensified industrial uses of these lands.
Thank you. I think we need to take that in perspective, and I'm glad Mr. Corrado came back because I do have some questions. They're general as they relate to ensuring the properties will be utilized under this new concept if in fact it gets passed for truck parking. Because some discussion I'm having with some people there, and I think Councillor Wolf alluded to the fact that the runoff, the drainage, there's a storm ditches in the front on the River Road area, but my understanding is there's nothing on the sides or in the back where the railroad tracks are. And so the question I have for you, who would we get in to inspect that to ensure, for example, that there's no ditches that have been not properly dug up there in order for the drainage to take place? Because as you know, even when we go to truck wash, even if you put gravel down or something like that, because the truckers are complaining it's a mud pit in the winter and it's a dust storm area in the summer. So they're going to have to do something. And when we talk about truck washing, that's got to run off to somewhere.
Through your worship to Councillor Heed, in terms of the maintenance of the ditching and the waterworks that's done by Public Works, my understanding is most trucks have basins on each truck to catch the runoff. But if we do have any examples of them not utilizing those basins, then we can certainly take action of that on a complaint basis. In terms of the ditches or the boulevard not being maintained, if there's overgrowth in there, we can take action against any property owners who have not maintained that boulevard under the boulevard maintenance bylaw.
So when we talk about runoff, because my understanding in the 1,500 and 16,000 or 15,000 and 16,000 River Road, when you've got the storm ditch in front, but there's nothing in the rear, and it all piles up around the railroad tracks. So would we have our property use inspectors go in and look at those particular areas at this particular time?
Through your worship to Councillor Heed, the maintenance of ditch works or waterworks would be under the Public Works Division. It wouldn't be maintained by property use officers. They'd be looking for specifically for bylaw violations. So I'm not sure in this case what specific violation that would fall under.
So neither am I. That's why I'm asking you, hoping that there is some way that we can go in and inspect these areas, because there are some where it's all running off or ditches have been dug up so it runs off towards the railroad tracks. There's got to be something under our property use with respect to that.
Thank you. Through your worship to Councillor Heed, in terms of the subject site, should the rezoning proceed as part of the ESA development permit and ultimately the building permits, there will be requirements for perimeter drainage on the property. In terms of other sites within this block that may have been rezoned prior to this, we can work with our engineering department to look at what is being done with respect to those sites and whether there are any stormwater runoff issues being created.
Thank you.
Councillor Glanders.
Thank you, Worship. And yeah, good questions from the councillors. I mean, this is an industrial area right on a river, so we have to make sure that the uses aren't contaminating the river. So I would like to know more about it as well. I appreciate the comments of Councillor Wolf. I mean, it's not something I would normally want to do, seeing, peat soils being packed over and turned into truck parking. But in this situation, given that these lots were taken out of the ALR years ago and designated for industrial, I mean, if you just go a little bit more west to the big industrial complex just down the street near 6 Road. I mean, that was all the same soil at one point. It was all the peat soil as well. So this was designated industrial. It's all going to go that way eventually, one lot at a time. But what I would like to see is just us doing a better job of separating the industrial part of River Road from the agriculture part of River Road. Like, we have to be protecting our ALR lands, and like Councillor Wolf said, the lands to the east of this, where people have applied for fill permits, and then they say they're going to do all this farming, and then they just sell it, and then other people are just illegally filling. There's illegal asphalt, there's illegal commercial activities going on, and we still do not have a handle on it. And we really need to. But we do need the truck parking. I'm not sure how great of truck parking these little lots one at a time are going to be. And like Councillor Heed pointed out, are they going to have proper truck washing facilities? What are the rates going to be? Is it going to be competitive? And is it going to be enough to get people off of the ALR lands that are illegally truck parking and onto these properties? I don't know, but I guess no way to find out except to go forward with it and see how it goes, and if it can work into our overall strategy of increasing our truck parking areas to try to keep them off of agricultural land reserve lands.
Councillor Day.
Thank you very much, Mayor Brody. I wanted to ask a question of staff on PHCNCL 97. There's like an aerial map, and it shows lots to the west where there's lots of trucks and trailers and equipment parked. Are they all there legally? Just waiting for the mic. Technology.
Through your worship to Councillor Day, the property immediately to the west is designated or is zoned agriculture as well. Based on the aerial photograph, it does appear that they are consistent with that zoning. Other properties further west are included in the areas that are designated for industrial uses. So I do believe, based on the aerial photograph that is on page 97, that those properties appear to be in compliance. Further inspection to confirm that would be required by city staff.
I think maybe that would be wise to just double check that everything's on the up and up. Then the next one I wanted to ask you about is on CNCL 99. We have the map that shows the grid along the south edge. And it states on page 92 that in the future, upon completion of the east-west industrial road to the south, any driveway along river will be closed because there's going to be a new road basically on the south side. Can you talk about what that, I mean, I understand they're having to give the city 20 meters, so almost 60 feet of land to allow for this new industrial road. Can you talk a little bit about that?
Through your worship to Councillor Day, the intention of the long-term strategy for the 1600 block does include the securing of a 20-meter future road adjacent to the CN parcel, the railway, that will provide for future access to all of the industrial properties in the long term. That land is ultimately being secured as development proceeds through the rezoning process.
So as you get more and more lots rezoned, you'll eventually have enough to put in a road. Is that the idea?
That's correct.
Yeah, and is that going to be paid for by the owners of the property, the developers, or have we already taken the land and that's their contribution?
Through your worship to Councillor Day, through the rezoning applications, it's been the dedication of the land. The works would be ultimately completed by the city. It would, depending on the scale and scope of the project, funding would have to be determined at the time that it is designated as a capital project.
And you were saying, thank you, that it was 2008 that commercial uses were approved in this area. Is that right?
Through your worship to Councillor Day, it was 2008 that the interim strategy was brought into place by council, indicating a short-term strategy for uses that may be able to proceed prior to more intensified industrial uses taking place.
And in general, would you say that the Agricultural Land Commission has approved this change from AG1 to commercial?
Through your worship to Councillor Day, these lands were ultimately removed from the ALR in the early 2000s.
Okay, so not up against any hurdles there. All right, thank you.
All right, let's call the question on the motion. All those in favor? Any opposed? It's carried with Councillor Wolf opposed. That brings us to public announcements and events, and I've got a few announcements. I'm going to start off with some really good news. Some of you may have heard about Cameron Rogers and Evan Dunphy. Those are two Richmond athletes, and they captured gold medals at the 2025 World Athletics Championships in Tokyo. Cameron Rogers, you may remember her from the Olympic experience. She claimed gold in the hammer throw, successfully defending the world title she first earned at the 2023 Championships in Budapest. And Evan Dunphy won gold in the 35-kilometer race walk, adding to his earlier bronze medal in the 50-kilometer race walk at the 2019 World Championships. Their achievements continue to inspire Richmond residents and showcase the city's world-class athletic talent. And of course, we'll want to recognize them at some later date when they are able to join us for some kind of a celebration. Then we have the National Day for Truth and Reconciliation. We'll observe the National Day and Orange Shirt Day on Tuesday, September 30th. This day encourages Canadians to reflect on the history and lasting impacts of residential schools and to honor the resilience of the Indigenous communities. Residents are invited to commemorate the day through a series of displays and programs right across the city. So if you're looking for details, go to the Richmond website /NDTR. Then we have Rosh Hashanah and Yom Kippur. The Jewish community in Richmond and around the world will soon observe Rosh Hashanah and the Jewish New Year from Monday, September 22nd to the 24th. This will be followed by Yom Kippur, the Day of Atonement, observed from Wednesday, October 1st to Thursday, October 2nd. Then we have National Seniors Days and the Positive Aging Campaign. The National Seniors Day takes place on Wednesday, October 1st. The City of Richmond celebrates this day annually with free and low-cost community activities before and after that date. Richmond celebrates Positive Aging Week every year by showcasing positive images of local seniors to reduce ageism in the city. So if you want more details, go to the Richmond website /positiveaging. And then finally, we have Culture Days. September 19 marks the return of Culture Days, a month-long celebration of Richmond artists and cultural organizations. Celebrated in communities across the country, Richmond is recognized as a leader in Culture Days activities and events with free and pay-what-you-may experiences. Examples of those would be hands-on workshops, creative activities, behind-the-scenes tours, open studio events, and cultural demonstrations. So if you want to find out more about that, just go to our website, the Richmond website, which is richmond.ca/Culture Days. So with that, Madam Clerk, Development Permit Panel.
Thank you, Your Worship. There's one recommendation, and it is that the minutes of the Development Permit Panel meeting held on August 27, 2025, and September 10, 2025 be received for information.
Moved and seconded. All those in favor? Any opposed? That is carried. We are now adjourned. Thanks to Councillor Liu and Councillor Au for joining us remotely. Thank you.